17 animals that could defeat a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Oh god.
Which animals could actually take on a full-grown Tyrannosaurus Rex? Certainly not too many. After all, the T-Rex was not only one of the largest carnivores of all time,
It was the largest terrestrial carnivore of all time. Also, what are you even showing right now?
with a length of 12 meters and a weight of 6 to 10 tons,
Okay, so this model of T-Rex is actually okay. But the T-Rex is around 12.4 meters in length and around 8 to 9 tons on average.
but also one of the strongest. The Tyrannosaurus Rex has the highest bite force of all theropods, and an extremely thick and solid skull with teeth that can withstand extreme pressure and are longer than those of all other carnivorous dinosaurs.
Longer? Have you seen Spino's teeth or something?
Who can take on a beast like that? We'll look at candidates from all ages of Earth's history to find out.
So what you're shown in the Triassic period here is the Dimetrodon, which already went extinct by the Triassic period. It lived during the Permian around 295 to 272 million years ago.
The first thing that comes to mind are a couple of theropods that are not necessarily stronger than the T-Rex, but could defeat it with a bit of luck.
No, the only theropods capable of beating the T-Rex is other T-Rexes.
There is, for example, the Gigantosaurus.
Giganotosaurus, you spelled it correctly. Why didn't you pronounce it correctly then? I know some people call it Giganotosaurus. I know. At least Giganotosaurus, Giganotosaurus, they still have that no-toe instead of, Gigantosaurus. That's the dubious genus of a sauropod.
Which lived in the early to late Cretaceous period 30 million years before the T-Rex.
98 to 96 million years ago is exclusive to the late Cretaceous. Also, Giganotosaurus lived approximately 99.6 to 95 million years ago.
The dinosaur was a little bit longer at up to 13 meters, but was still of a similar weight.
Look, it's longer than the T-Rex, but it's smaller, at least in current paleontology. It is the second largest terrestrial carnivore.
The Gigantosaur's physique suggests that it was faster and more agile than the T-Rex.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that a Giganotosaurus will win most of the time. The T-Rex is also abnormally agile for its size and length and body posture and everything. Also, the T-Rex simply has the advantage in the fundamentals, the bite force, the intelligence. Simply stronger overall, has frontward-facing eyes.
But on the other hand, it had much less impressive bite force and a more primitive set of teeth.
What do you mean primitive set of teeth?
Its brain was also smaller, and its senses were probably not as developed as that of the Tyrannosaurus.
Yes, the T-Rex wins simply because it has better fundamentals.
A fight would still be very close, and the Gigantosaurus would definitely have a chance to win.
Yes, but it doesn't mean it will win most of the time.
The same applies to the Carcharodontosaurus.
No, how would a Carcharodontosaurus be able to defeat a T-Rex? It's basically a weaker version of Giganotosaurus.
Which, like the Gigantosaurus, comes from the early Cretaceous, but did not live in Argentina, but in the area of North Africa.
Carcharodontosaurus also exclusively lived during the Cenomanian age, the late Cretaceous, 99 to 94 million years ago.
With up to 13.7 meters,
It's probably just 12 meters in length. Also, you're talking about Carcharodontosaurus saharicus. The Carcharodontosaurus equidensis is much shorter and smaller.
this dinosaur was even a little longer, and it also had slightly larger arms with sharp claws and 3 fingers on them.
Okay, so you're using a fairly accurate Carcharodontosaurus, which is Monster's resurrected one. Its arms would not even help the Carcharodontosaurus. How would it be able to use them without exposing its vulnerabilities to the T-Rex?
So one more than the T-Rex.
Just a useless fact that doesn't help the Carcharodontosaurus at all at beating the T-Rex.
Its skull was a little longer, but not quite as massive as that of the T-Rex, and its bite was not as strong, but the teeth were extremely dangerous and up to 20 centimeters long.
Look, I know that Carcharodontosaurus can and will cause the T-Rex to bleed to death, but think about it for a second. Will the T-Rex just bleed to death first, or will the Carcharodontosaurus get crushed to death first?
The biggest difference between the T-Rex and the Carcharodontosaurus was probably intelligence, which can be seen, for example, from the fact that both the cerebrum and the entire brain of the Carcharodontosaurus were smaller. Overall, the T-Rex is probably a bit stronger and more developed, but a fight would still be very exciting, and Carcharodontosaurus can absolutely win.
You mean that the Carcharodontosaurus can absolutely kill a T-Rex, even though the Carcharodontosaurus will definitely go down first?
The situation looks similar with the Mapusaurus from the late Cretaceous, the Tyranotitan from the early Cretaceous period, and a few other theropods with similar dimensions that have almost the same physique.
Okay, so a Tyranotitan versus a T-Rex would definitely be an unfair fight. A T-Rex versus Mapusaurus would be a bit of a fairer fight. However, the T-Rex would still definitely win most of the time. If the T-Rex beats Giganotosaurus, how would a Mapusaurus be able to beat a T-Rex?
The fight against the famous Spinosaurus looks a little different.
Okay, so the Spino's neck position makes it absolutely vulnerable to a T-Rex neck. Why is there a scaly raptor here? Okay, so as I was saying, the fight would actually be quite unfair. Even in somewhere like the shallow waters, the Spino would still lose to a T-Rex. It would definitely put up a better fight. However, the T-Rex would still win.
It is a good bit longer than the dinosaurs just mentioned, but in my opinion, would probably have a worse chance of victory. This is mainly
Okay, so using an outdated Spino model, but at least isn't as bad as Brightside's Monsters Resurrected Spino.
due to the body frame and prey pattern of the Spinosaurus, which specialized in fishing and riverside life rather than hunting giant dinosaurs. Of course, with a length of 16 meters.
What? The length of the Spino is probably closer to 13 meters. More specifically, 13.3 meters.
And a weight of 17.9 tons,
Which for today's paleontology standards is just absolutely ludicrous. It's actually closer to the 7-ton range.
it was a dangerous opponent for any dinosaur, and its long arms with huge claws could seriously injure a T-Rex.
However, the T-Rex would still be able to withstand this amount of heavy damage, and with the intelligence, the T-Rex would simply go for the arm, rip the arm off, forcing Spino to retreat. The T-Rex knocks it down, and then bites it on the neck. Gochi Center made a very good analysis on the T-Rex versus Spinosaurus. I highly recommend you checking it out.
The long neck, however, is a
Oh, so you're now just using another outdated Spino.
weak point. Another special feature that the T-Rex could take advantage of is the Spinosaurus's lack of stability when it stands on two legs.
The Spino can simply pin its hands down. Well, unless if one of its arms get ripped by the T-Rex.
Of course, the Spinosaurus can also get down on all four legs, but in return, it gives up a bit of height.
The Spino would probably be better off standing on two legs. However, either position still makes it vulnerable to a T-Rex bite.
Which makes it easier for the T-Rex to attack the neck. In my opinion, the T-Rex wins this fight a lot more often, but if you want to know more about this matchup, I also made a whole video about this topic that you can watch.
Then why did you put Spino on the list then?
The next animal that could defeat a T-Rex looks completely different from all previous ones. It's called Ankylosaurus.
Alright, we got a correct one. Anky can definitely beat a T-Rex most of the time, but this small of Anky looks really weird, especially with those horns and stuff.
And it comes equipped with a huge club. With a length of 9 meters
It's probably closer to the 8-meter range.
and a weight of 4 to 5 tons,
Don't forget the estimates of around 8 tons, maybe even 9. Facts Junkie estimated it better because it only said slightly smaller than the T-Rex.
this dinosaur was significantly smaller than the T-Rex, but it had two good counters. On the one hand, its thick armor made of bone plates that were embedded in the skin and protected the dinosaur from various attacks, and then of course, the tail club.
Not to mention its flat body posture and defensive instincts where it slanted back against the opponent, making it difficult for the T-Rex to flip it over. The T-Rex's best shot is the head. However, it's still quite vulnerable to an Anky strike.
With the thick, bony tail end, Ankylosaurus could defend itself, strike with a lot of momentum, and break the bones of its opponents. Tyrannosaurus rex and Ankylosaurus lived in the same area at the same time, and there is even some fossil evidence that the Tyrannosaurus hunted this herbivore. Hunting such a dinosaur was certainly not easy, and a few hits with the club on the legs could bring the T-Rex to fall with broken bones.
Yes, the scenario of Ankylosaurus whacking the T-Rex, disabling it, occurs most of the time.
Which would ensure a tragic demise. The even smaller Denversaurus
Unfortunately, there is no way in hell that the Denversaurus would be able to defeat a T-Rex. It does not have a club tail, making its tail much less devastating, and the fact that the T-Rex can withstand heavy damage makes it even more difficult for the Denversaurus to beat a T-Rex.
Might have a chance too. It did not have a club at the end of its tail, but it did have small spikes in hardened areas.
Unfortunately, because it does not have a club tail, the Denversaurus isn't able to do as much damage as the Anki. The best case scenario for Denversaurus is that it could still do heavy damage to a T-Rex. However, the T-Rex withstands it, and the T-Rex simply crushes the Denversaurus' neck.
And its armor and pointed tips made sure that it was quite well protected. It could also use the spikes on its shoulders to attack the T-Rex's legs, which would certainly cause some damage. Attacking with its tail might also be a possibility for the Stegosaurus to win the fight.
Unfortunately, the Stegosaurus is simply not equipped to deal with the T-Rex. It's equipped to deal with Allosaurus, but against the T-Rex, nah fam. Its body build makes it vulnerable, unlike the Anki, and the Stegomysaurs cause prolonged damage and not actual blunt damage immediately. Like, the Stego has the potential ability to make the T-Rex bleed to death. However, when it comes to a fight, the first one to die loses. The T-Rex will simply be able to beat the Stego first. Actually, now that I think about it, it's quite similar of a situation when it comes to Denversaurus. It could potentially make the T-Rex die. However, the T-Rex would be able to defeat the Denversaurus first.
But it's not really clear whether it actually used its spines at the end of its tail as a weapon.
Yes, there's literally fossil evidence of punctures in Allosaurus skulls caused by a Stegomysaur.
Or whether they were just for display. In addition, the Stegosaurus was not well armored, which makes it much more vulnerable than the previous two candidates, which is why, in my opinion, it would have extremely poor chances of victory. The next candidates weren't particularly well armored either, but they were so big and heavy that no carnivorous dinosaur could really harm them.
Well, they could just simply rip flesh off the sauropods and let them recover, providing more meat in the future. However, the sauropods would still be alive, and if they're big enough, they could simply crush the theropods under their own weight. If a T-Rex dares to go against the sauropod will become extremely aggressive and will defend itself. I saw a video about Sauroposeidon being very aggressive, biting Acrocanthosaurus to protect their young. This could also be the case here, if the sauropod gets provoked. I'm just giving unnecessary details. If the sauropod is big enough, there is no way in hell that the T-Rex would be able to defeat them.
And these were the largest sauropods, the titanosaurs. Among them was, for example, Dreadnoughtus with a length of 26 meters and an estimated weight of 59 tons.
It's actually 48 to 49 metric tons. Simply big enough to simply crush the T-Rex under its own weight.
Or Patagotitan majorum, whose length is even estimated to be 37 meters,
which is a 27 estimate which is now considered outdated. It's around 31 meters in length and weighing in at around 57 tons. Still big enough to simply crush the T-Rex without any effort.
And its weight at over 70 tons.
Again, another outdated estimate.
With such dimensions, even a T-Rex would no longer pose a threat, but here we have the problem as with the largest marine animals, the baleen whales, and that is that they cannot really attack and fight back.
No, they can simply crush the T-Rex under their own weight. They could also bite the T-Rex, throw it around.
There is evidence that a few sauropods may have used their tails like a whip, but that is by no means proven.
And they could potentially hurt themselves in the process.
Stomping attacks, on the other hand, are definitely possible, but catching a much faster little theropod with them wouldn't be easy. So with a little luck, a titanosaur could really win, but at least it couldn't lose. A fight with the famous Triceratops looks completely different.
Look, I said it many times before, the T-Rex's body posture makes it vulnerable to a strike from a trike. Those meter-long horns are incredibly lethal.
The three-horned face was even a little shorter than a T-Rex with a length of 9 meters.
That's a reasonable estimate for a Prorsus species at around 8.7 meters.
But it had a stocky build with 9 to 12 tons.
Which is an overestimate. Triceratops prorsus is actually around 8.4 to 8.6 tons, which is smaller than the T-Rex, with the highest estimates reaching around 10.1 to even 10.6 tons, while an average T-Rex would be around the same size as the trike.
In contrast to the sauropods, the Triceratops was armed with horns that could be used to attack, and its neck shield possibly protected it from life-threatening bites or was used for thermal regulation. The researchers are not entirely in agreement about that. The three horns of the Triceratops were mostly used in territorial and mating fights with conspecifics, but of course they would also be useful in a fight against a T-Rex.
Yep, the Triceratops would win most of the time.
One advantage they had over the carnivore was probably speed, because they were able to gallop like rhinos do, for example.
I don't think this is a galloping clip. Also, Triceratops likely cannot gallop, but the Triceratops is definitely very agile.
And could have reached 30 to 40 kilometers per hour in this way.
Nah.
Due to the low build, Triceratops had an extremely stable stand. A rush attack by this dinosaur could cause serious damage to the T-Rex, even if its horns only hit the legs or belly, and could also knock it to the ground. So you should not underestimate herbivores, even if they aren't as large as the titanosaurs.
At least the guy is acknowledging that something like Triceratops and Anki can beat a T-Rex, unlike Brightside, which didn't even mention Triceratops at all, and the Anki wasn't on the list of their 8 dinosaurs that can beat T-Rex in a fight. Please, for the love of God, include either Edmontosaurus or Xantungosaurus.
The next candidates are also extremely interesting, since they are the only land animals that can compete with the T-Rex for the top spot of the strongest bite, namely prehistoric crocodiles. Above all, Purosaurus brasiliensis.
Okay, so I don't think the creator of this video made the spelling mistake of Purosaurus. There should be an extra S between S and A.
And Deinosuchus, at 8 to 12 meters,
which is actually a reasonable broad estimate. However, the Deinosuchus, using a regression equation, it's estimated at a total length of 10.64 meters.
The crocodile god Deinosuchus was about twice as long as today's largest representatives of crocodiles, and at 3 to 5 tons.
Actually, now that I looked it up, Dinosaurus riograndensis is around 12 meters in length and are 8.5 metric tons.
Also many times heavier. It was still significantly lighter,
depends on species,
than a T-Rex, but with a bite force of 102,000 newtons, it exceeds the dinosaur, whose bite force is estimated to be between 35,000 and 60,000 newtons. A bite with that much force would be devastating, especially if the croc catches the T-Rex with a surprise attack while it's drinking on the riverbank.
The thing is, Deinosuchus did not coexist with the T-Rex. Deinosuchus went extinct 5 million years before the T-Rex appeared.
Purosaurus, which developed 55 million years after the Deinosuchus,
more specifically around 57 million,
was even bigger and reached a really impressive weight of up to 8 tons.
A 2022 study estimated a length of 7.6 to 9.2 meters and a mass of 2 to 6.2 metric tons using a phylogenetic approach, and a length of 9.2 to 10 meters and a mass of 3.9 to 4.9 metric tons using a non-phylogenetic approach. However, as only skulls have been found, the actual length is not certain.
And a correspondingly strong bite. In an open area, it would still be at a disadvantage in a fight against a T-Rex, but in a swamp or near another body of water, and above all through a surprise attack, it would certainly be able to defeat almost any opponent. In addition to dinosaurs and prehistoric crocodiles, there are also other animals that could defeat a Tyrannosaurus rex. For example, the largest rhinoceros of all time, Elasmotherium.
When it comes to the outdated model of Elasmotherium shown here, well, maybe, because its horn is very long. This video was probably made before the Elasmotherium was thought to have a shorter horn. But judging by the anatomy, the Elasmotherium still had a bit of trouble dealing with the T-Rex. However, as of now, with the Elasmotherium's shorter horn, definitely not.
This animal actually lived up to 50,000 years ago,
around 39,000 years ago,
and therefore probably met humans. After all, the area of the habitat of Elasmotherium stretched from Europe to Asia, and humans had already spread over a large part of the world by this time. With a length of 5 meters and a weight of 5 tons.
This is only for Elasmotherium caucasicum species. Elasmotherium sibericum reached around 4.5 meters in length.
It was about the size of an Asian elephant.
A bull is around 4 tons in mass.
In contrast to these, Elasmotherium had a powerful weapon, namely a heavy, powerful horn on its forehead.
Which, as of now, it's outdated. And without this long horn to back it up, the Elasmotherium would definitely have trouble dealing with the T-Rex. The T-Rex would win most of the time.
With it, it could possibly defeat a Tyrannosaurus, much like the Triceratops sometimes did. However, I think that the prehistoric rhinoceros has significantly worse chances, because on the one hand, it is significantly smaller and lighter than Triceratops, and on the other hand, Elasmotherium did not have nearly as strong opponents at its time. While a Triceratops really had to compete with a T-Rex to survive, the rhinoceros had nothing comparable, and therefore no experience in handling such a threat.
In the end, though, it would still try and defend itself. I don't know what will happen in a real-life scenario other than just Elasmotherium getting destroyed by the T-Rex.
It would most likely run away and, in the vast majority of cases, be eaten if the T-Rex managed to catch up with the rhino. A particularly brave Elasmotherium that puts up a fight and has a little bit of luck could potentially do enough damage with its large horn to defeat a T-Rex. The odds are, of course, not very good.
Well, we're just talking about outdated Elasmotherium at this point. At this point, the outdated Elasmotherium's chance of beating a T-Rex is a maybe.
But it's not inconceivable that it will happen once in 1,000 cases.
Well, it could very well be somewhat close to a tie.
There is another prehistoric animal that is neither a dinosaur nor a crocodile and has a better chance of victory than the rhinoceros, namely Paleoloxodon namadicus,
which can absolutely beat a T-Rex. For one, it can simply gore the T-Rex with its trunks. For two, it can simply trample the T-Rex under its own weight. Come on, 22 tons. And for third, if neither of these work, it can simply just throw rocks at the T-Rex.
This prehistoric elephant measured over 7 meters in length, with a height of 5 meters and a weight of 15 tons.
We're now showing Paleoloxodon naumanni, which is reasonable considering that the status of Paleoxodon namadicus is currently unresolved.
According to some estimates, even 20 tons. This made it the largest elephant species, and probably the strongest land animal that is not a dinosaur or a crocodile. Due to its size alone, Paleoloxodon has a slightly better chance.
What do you mean slightly better chance? That's much better chance.
Because it not only surpasses Elasmotherium, but also the T-Rex and even Triceratops. In addition, the elephant was armed with particularly large and straight tusks, which it could use to defend itself.
Yes, another way is to just simply trample the Rex under its own weight.
Due to its height, a T-Rex would not be able to bite its neck from above, and thanks to its weight and stability on the 4 massive legs, a T-Rex could not knock it over either.
And the elephant will be able to. This Paleoloxodon will beat the T-Rex most of the time.
An aggressive ramming attack by the elephant could push the less stable T-Rex to the ground or even impale it. In any case, it will not be an easy fight for both candidates, and the match is really close.
Would it be really close? It would actually be quite unfair in Paleoloxodon's favor.
A few million years after the dinosaurs became extinct, a new giant creature emerged that became the largest of its family, Titanoboa, the largest species of snake that ever existed.
Now, as intimidating as Titanoboa is, there is no way in hell that it would be able to beat a T-Rex. A T-Rex would just simply crush the Titanoboa's head or something. Or its vertebrae, paralyzing the Titanoboa.
Some people believe that this animal actually had a chance against a T-Rex, however, I have my doubts.
Good, the Titanoboa is just too slender to deal with the T-Rex.
Titanoboa was 13 meters long and measured more than 1,100 kilograms in weight.
Now, Titanoboa can grow up to 12.8 meters long, perhaps even 14.3 meters long, and reach a body mass of 730 to 1,135 kilograms.
It was therefore significantly larger than any snake species that is still alive today. For comparison, the largest officially measured snake, Medusa, only reaches 7.67 meters and 158 kilograms. But still, the prehistoric snake is much smaller than a T-Rex.
Yep, the T-Rex could simply throw it around without any problems. The Titanoboa is just too small.
It is longer than the Tyrannosaurus, but only slightly, and its weight is only a fraction of that of the theropod. In order to defeat this dinosaur, the snake would have to bite firmly and wrap its entire body around the T-Rex and squeeze it tightly.
Which is a very difficult maneuver for a Titanoboa. The T-Rex, 99% of the time probably, it would simply crush the Titanoboa.
In my opinion, its length and strength wouldn't be nearly enough to cut off the blood supply of such a huge animal. Although pythons and anacondas are able to kill quite large prey, their meals usually weigh at most as much as the snake itself, and not 5 to 9 times as much as in this case. But what do you think? Does Titanoboa stand any chance against a T-Rex?
Absolutely not. Like I explained before, the Titanoboa is simply too slender to deal with T-Rex. The Titanoboa is too small to deal with T-Rex. The T-Rex is simply throw the Titanoboa around, crushing its head or something. It's just an extremely unfair fight in the T-Rex's favor.
Write it in the comments. I actually see better chances for the strongest land animal living today, the African elephant.
Unfortunately, I don't think an African elephant would be able to beat a T-Rex. For one, it has way shorter tusks. For two, it is much smaller. The African bush elephant, a bull, weighed in at around 4,700 to 6,048 kilograms. And three, its neck is placed in an area that is vulnerable to a bite from a T-Rex.
With its good stability in tusks, it has the same advantages and weapons as Paleoloxodon namadicus, just a good deal smaller.
Its tusks are way shorter, so it'll be a more difficult time trying to impale the T-Rex. Although, to be fair, the elephant can slap around the T-Rex with its trunk, and if it gets lucky enough, one of its tusks could impale the T-Rex. However, the elephant is quite small compared to the T-Rex, so it can get thrown around, and its neck position, as I said before, is vulnerable to a T-Rex bite.
While a large T-Rex like Sue would probably handle an elephant very quickly, I could imagine that smaller specimens would have difficulties with this prey. Sue and Scotty, the two most famous T-Rex skeletons, are also bigger than average, and there used to be a lot of T-Rexes that were much smaller.
I'm glad that you stated all of this, because if you don't, like Brightside, well, yeah.
A particularly large elephant bull and a smaller T-Rex would certainly deliver a close match in the event of a fight, and I do not consider it completely impossible for the elephant to emerge victorious. The largest measured elephant came from Angola, which was about 4 meters high and weighed 11 tons.
Now, this elephant has a good chance of beating a T-Rex. It's bigger than a T-Rex, making it difficult for the T-Rex to throw it around. Its neck is positioned in a way that is not as vulnerable to attack. I'd say between T-Rex and that elephant, it would probably be a close match. But I could be extremely wrong, so let me know if I am.
So even more than a large Tyrannosaurus Rex. But the T-Rex would clearly have the better chances when both animals are of average size. In terms of speed, the two are on par.
Some estimates calculate the highest speed an elephant can run as 25 miles per hour. Most elephants, though, are more likely to hit 15 miles per hour when running.
But the Tyrannosaurus had the strongest bite of all dinosaurs, and hunting large, powerful prey was nothing unusual for this predator. As you can see, there are not many animals that have a good chance against a T-Rex. Above all, large sauropods and theropods that are similar to the T-Rex would have the best chance in my opinion.
Well, in my opinion, which is actually based on facts, sauropods that are large enough can definitely beat a T-Rex, no problem. Triceratops can also beat the T-Rex. Anky can also beat a T-Rex. And hadrosaurs as well, like Edmontosaurus and Shantungosaurus. It's a shame that Edmontosaurus and Shantungosaurus did not make an appearance here.
Primeval crocodiles would of course be extremely dangerous, especially near water and with the element of surprise attacks. But even after the dinosaurs, there were still challengers like Paleoloxodon that could be trouble even for large T-Rex specimens. Do you know another animal that you think would have a chance against a T-Rex?
Hadrosaurs. I'm saying it right now, they are criminally underrated. In a lot of cases, because the hadrosaur is big enough, a predator would simply get crushed under the hadrosaur's own weight. Using their entire body as a weapon is also a nice feat. A fight between a T-Rex and Montosaurus and Nectens would probably be a tie, slightly more on the T-Rex's favor, but the Montosaurus definitely would not go out without a fight. Shantungosaurus, on the other hand, would beat the T-Rex more than the T-Rex beats the Shantungosaurus.
Then be sure to write it in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. See you next time.
Now here's my opinion on this video. It's a mix of both good and bad. There are some picks like Triceratops, Anky, and Paleoloxodon which are completely based. However, there are other picks like Carcharodontosaurus or Titanoboa which is just not good at all. It's not the worst paleontology video I've seen, but in honesty, it could have been much better. I'm not saying it could have been much worse because this is not Brightside, and this guy who made this video got quite a few things correct, and actually gets to the point unlike Brightside, so props to them. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it, I'll see you all next one.